Welcome to chapter 15, Release of Loans. The loan is something that was personal and something that was larger than a personal loan, like a banking, people that lend money. So there's a difference between the two. For 7 years you shall make a release. It's talking about the 7 years. Then the debts will be released and people will be freed from their servitude to somebody. Unfortunately, now in the United States, it's 30 years. My loan on my house was a 30-year loan, and the release is coming up here, and hopefully in around February of 2020, another 6 months. It's not a great thing to take out a loan, but in the New Testament, there's nothing that prohibits anybody from doing that. The Old Testament has different rules and regulations concerning that, and it says, "And thus is the order of the release. You shall cancel every private loan which your neighbor owes to you." Now, this is a loan is that the neighbor owes. In the New Testament, it doesn't have this word for loan, 5532.3. Instead, it has 1155 for lending and borrowing, and we'll see that here later. And so there to cancel these loans which your neighbor owes to you, and you shall not exact payment of your brother, for it has been called a release to the Lord your God. Now, apparently the interest wasn't something that when they loaned, they just expected to give them the money back, but no interest was charged to fellow Jews, but not so to other people. It says, "The alien, you shall exact as much as might be due to you from him, but to your brother you shall make a release." So, of your loan. "For there shall not be among you one lacking, for by a blessing the Lord your God shall bless in the land which the Lord your God gives to you by lot to inherit it." So everybody, all the Jews, ideally would not be owing any money. They would be blessed to the point where they wouldn't have to borrow. But that wasn't the case. They did have to borrow. In the New Testament, borrowing, Jesus says in Matthew 5:42, "To the one asking you, give, and the one wanting from you to borrow, you should not turn away." And also on lending, he says in 6:35, I think that's Luke 6:35, "Furthermore, love your enemies and do good and lend, for despairing for nothing, and your wage will be great and you will be sons of the highest. For he is gracious," and it goes on down. So lending to people that need help is what Christians are expected to do. And I don't believe if you lend somebody you should charge an interest. We're not banks as such. It continues in 5, "But if in hearing you should hearken to the voice of the Lord your God, to guard and to do all these commandments which I give charge to you today, then," and there's a parenthetical phrase, then it continues, "then you shall lend to many nations, for the Lord your God blessed you in which manner he spoke to you. Then you shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. And you shall control many nations, but of you they shall not control. There is a site on the internet, and I believe it was written by a Jew. It's not. It's on the Jewish banking, history of Jewish banking. It's www.manfredlehman.com/news/detail.cgi/173/0. We'll put this up on the on the footnote here, and you can see it and look it up. And this is not some type of a right-wing site that's putting the Jews in a negative way. It's just more or less explaining how the Jews have been instrumental in lending money to even many nations throughout history, which it says right here that they will do. And you shall control many nations, but they shall not control. Controlling a nation by using your money, excuse me, is a way of having power. The Jews for 2,000 years didn't have a nation of Israel, but the Jewish people had power in a lot of ways by their control of commerce in many places. They tried to buy the Nazis off at the end of the war by offering money to allow many of the Jews that were in the concentration camps to be free. Care for the brothers. And if there should be among you one lacking from out of your brothers in one of your cities in the land which the Lord your God gives to you, you shall not disregard your heart, nor not in any way close your hand from your brother, the one wanting. And I believe that goes along with Christians also. We are told to help the brothers. In opening, you shall open your hands to him, and you shall lend a loan to him as much as he wants, and according to as much as he lacks. Take heed. Now I had a broken leg. Yeah, I couldn't work for a couple of months. I didn't have unemployment yet, and I had a Christian friend who was fairly wealthy, has a bunch of fishing boats, and I needed money to pay my bills, and so I went to him and asked to borrow, and he lent me $1,000 right there on the spot, wrote out a check, and I paid him off later. So if you have the means to help somebody and they want, then, and he never asked me for the money back, but I did pay him back. Take heed to yourself that there might not be a hidden thing in your heart, a violation of the law, saying the 7th year approaches the year of the release. So if you know within a year that he's going to be released, all the debts, then maybe you wouldn't loan the money because you wouldn't get it back. He's going to be free of any debt in this 7th year. So this is what he's warning against, doing that. And your eye should be wicked towards your brother, to the one wanting, that you should not give to him. And he shall call to aid against you to the Lord, and there shall be in you a great sin. Giving you shall give to him, and a loan you shall lend to him as much as he wants of you. As you shall not fret in your heart of your giving to him. You should be happy to be able to help somebody. For on account of this matter, the Lord your God will bless you in all your works and in all things of whichever you should put your hand. So the wealth and health teachers, the New Testament, if you're give something, then expect something back. Well, there's a certain amount of truth to that, as we can see right here in the 10th verse. But a lot of them use that for their own sake, for they're getting money for themselves and having all sorts of wealth, airplanes and big homes and so forth, way of finagling the money out of your pocket into theirs, not really caring about you. For not in any way should the one lacking fail from your land. And the same with the Christians. Because of this I give charge to you to do this thing, saying, in opening you shall open your hands to your needy brother and to the one wanting upon your land. Now it changes a little bit here, and it becomes a servitude that, and if your brother, a Hebrew man, should be sold to you, or a Hebrew woman, he shall serve to you 6 years. In the 7th year you shall send him free from you. There is a site on Wikipedia called Indentured Servants. And in the early colonies of the United States, people would sell their service for these certain period of time. They'd sign a contract. They'd get a free trip to the new country, the new continent, and then they would work for a certain period of time, and when it's over, they were able to be free. It was very common in other countries. Again, you could look it up on Wikipedia, called Indentured Servants in the United States. And whenever you should send him forth free from you, you shall not send him empty. With supplies you shall provide him from your sheep and from your grain and from your wine vat, as the Lord your God blessed you. As the Lord your God blessed you, you shall give to him, and you shall remember that you were a servant in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God ransomed you from there. On account of this I give charge to you to do this thing. Now in the book of Nehemiah, I think it's Nehemiah here, yeah, it goes into the Jews' quarrel over servitude, and the cry of the people and the wives was great against their brothers of the Jews. And there were some saying, and this is after they came back after the 70 years in Babylon, and there were some saying, with our sons and with our daughters we are many, and we shall take grain and we shall eat and shall live. And there are some saying, our fields and our vineyards and our houses we mortgaged, and we shall take grain and we shall eat. And there are some saying, we borrowed money for tribute of the king of our fields and our vineyards and our houses. And now our flesh is as the flesh of our brothers, as their sons our sons. And behold, we are tyrannizing over our sons and our daughters, selling them for bondmen, and there are some of our daughters being tyrannized already. And there is not power to redeem them by our hands, for our fields and our vineyards belong to the important ones. And I fretted very much as I heard their cry and these words. So he goes and continues on. He goes to the rulers and tries to, and he says to them, shall a man exact from his brother what you do? And I put upon them a great assembly, and I said to them, we have acquired our brothers of the Jews, having been sold to the nations by our voluntary offerings. They were giving money and freeing the Jews that they could. And do you sell your brothers, or shall they be sold to us? And they were quiet and did not find a word. So what God is saying to do here, they didn't do in the long run. They started putting people under a bondage for longer than they probably should, and probably were not releasing them on the 7th year. But there's another possibility. But if he, the bondman, should say to you, I shall not go forth from you, for he loves you, and your house, for it is good to him to be by you. Then you shall take the shoemaker's awl, and make a hole in his ear against the door, and he will be to you a servant into the eon. Now, it doesn't say put an earring, but he makes a hole in the year. And of your maidservant you shall do likewise. It shall not be hard before you, sending them free from you. So if they do deserve to be free, then you should be happy that they are going free and they work for you those period of however many years. For he served to you the yearly wage of the hireling 6 years. And the Lord your God shall bless you in all whatever you should do. Then changes a little. Every firstborn whichever should give birth among your oxen and among your sheep, you shall sanctify the males to the Lord your God. They are to go to the temple and to the Levites. You shall not work with your firstborn calf. So when it's born, you separate it to be given away, and don't work with it. In no way should you shear the firstborn of your sheep. You let them live, and then you give it to the, you don't give it, take all the wool off of it and then give it to the person. You allow it to grow and give it as it is. Before the Lord your God you shall eat it year by year, and I believe that's the Levites and the priests, in the place in whichever the Lord your God should choose, you and your house. So the place that the temple is where the God is choosing for his name to be there, and this is where they are to eat these things. And if there might be in it a blemish, the animal, that is, lame or blind, or even any severe blemish, you shall not sacrifice it to the Lord your God. In your cities you shall eat it. The unclean among you and the clean likewise shall eat as the doe or stag. So all are to eat this, except its blood you shall not eat. You shall pour it upon the ground as water. So these are the rules concerning the firstborn is for the Lord, the first fruit, and it's not goodwill. It's not when things get old and worn out, or you don't need it anymore, or you've outgrown it, and so forth. Then you take it to Goodwill, get a little piece of paper saying how much it's worth, and take it off on your taxes. No, this is not what God, he's not goodwill. He wants the best. You go out, and if you're going to give it, actually, if you were going to give it to somebody, you could give them your old clothes. I mean, you could do that. But then again, try going out and buying the person some brand new clothes, or feeding him at a restaurant rather than just give him a dollar or something like that. As the Lord puts it on you, as you feel that this is the right thing. Now, there's a lot of beggars and people that are using it for things that they shouldn't be using it for, drugs and alcohol. So I'm not saying that you should go out and support their bad habits, but the needy are truly needy. And in the New Testament, Paul mentioned about the widows that were true widows would be helped by the church, but not the ones that were younger that could get married or who had a family to help them. They should be doing it first. All these things on helping other people is from the Lord. I look and think about other religions, and I look at the Hindu religion and the history of the Hindu religion with the poor untouchable caste. They had the caste system, the Brahmin and the well, I'm not sure what the other ones were, but then the untouchables were the lower caste. And to the Christian, there is no such thing as a lower caste or a Brahmin, a higher caste. We are all the same in Christ Jesus, and we are to help each other. Chapter 16, next video seminar concerning the Passover, and this is another recapitulation of the things that we learned earlier throughout the for second, third, and the fourth books of the Bible: Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. So we'll go into that in the next video seminar, and hope you'll join us. Till then, again, God bless.